Hey everybody, this is Alnash from the Unapologetic Woman Empowerment Dynasty, and you're listening to the Unapologetic Woman podcast, the show for women who choose to live their legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. If this is a space you're curious about, visit unapologetic-women.com. Today, we're talking about embracing the woman in the mirror with Aveline Clarke. Aveline is the founder of Journey Point and Six Star Business, and she's the host of the Six Star Business podcast. She's the captain of the Six Star Community Starship that helps guide and empower six-star entrepreneurs to bringing their voice, genius, impact, and purpose to the world. She's a mom of homeschooled twin boys, tends to a veggie garden, loves Formula One and plant-based cooking, and took up surfing in 2021 to surf with her son. Her journey has been an exploration of life and learning who she really is and coming back to self. Now she gets to share that with others and help inspire them to be more authentic and purposeful in business. Thanks for joining us. This is Aveline.
All right. All good.
So shall we play?
Let's play. Let's see how this journey unfolds.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm always intrigued by my response when other podcasters come on to my podcast. Mine is still a baby podcast, right? Mm-hmm. I'm still new in the game and enjoying the journey so much. And there was a time when I would feel like I'm in the hot seat, like, oh my God, is she going to be critiquing me in the back of her head unconsciously? Or is this really a space for two women to come and play? And I've started noticing how prevalent this thought process is amongst majority of high achieving women. Is she really on my side or the old narrative? Are you still experiencing that as well? Or is that one of the boxes that you have ticked?
I would like to think that I've transcended it. I've been doing my podcast for 2 years. And the first 8 months I did it with a co-host, a male co-host, and then he left and then I continued. And it took me months to finally feel like the chair was mine, and then I could go in a direction that felt right. And that was all fine, but I still felt like, I was in the hot seat, like there was a spotlight on me that people might judge the way I spoke or my pauses, or maybe because I'm not as quick. So some people are really quick off the mark, they're quick with their responses and they're witty, and I am not those things, right? I am absolutely not. And if I could, to be honest, like I cut out a lot of the gaps, right? I use a tool that shortens word gaps. My guests don't have word gaps, but I do, because I like to process things. So I'm self-confessed, I'm a bit slower I feel things first before I language. So I get the instant knowing of a response or how I feel about something, or intuitively knowing, but my language takes a little bit longer. So as a podcast host, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? So I've had to really work on my responses and just taking that breath. And so there's often a gap. Yeah, which it just is. I have to accept that about myself.
This is really interesting. So I used to take out the gaps as well, especially in my videos, because a coach told me that people want the fast. And then I stopped for a few reasons. One, I don't do well with rules. So whenever I'm told that this is how it is done, and I will do it for a little while to see what it feels like, and then I normally go, nah, fuck it. I don't want to do it that way. Let's break that rule. The other thing is, can't be screwed going through it. It's really time consuming, by the way, for anybody who has never taken out the gaps, it's a real time-consuming process to do that in the editing. And the last reason I stopped taking it out was because I do process longer. I do drop in. When I'm on a call with you, there's often long pauses.
Mm.
And it's natural.
Mm.
I almost feel like we have put so much pressure on us to have this instant conversation going all the time at a gazillion miles an hour to keep the energy vibe high so that people won't get off the call. Don't get off the call. Oh my God, please do not get off the call, because then the algorithm is going to say, we are not interesting and nobody will listen to my podcast.
I got that feedback, Elle, from someone. So I'm actually the host of 2 podcasts. The other one is not mine. I'm just the host, and I'm finishing up at the end of this month. And I've done, I think, around 70 conversations in that podcast, right? But the feedback that I got from I guess, some people that were giving advice on that podcast was, we want it to be so polished and perfect, like the ABC, conversations and all that kind of stuff, the stories. And I'm like, what? And you go and listen to those stories on the ABC website. They are so polished, so produced. It's like there are no gaps. It's just like, it's like, oh my God. And it's just so unnatural. I'm like, how can you want this conversation to be natural, but that's not natural? So I totally understand, and I agree with you. I have to get used to being okay with my word gaps. I do leave them in on the videos. I don't edit my videos. I just leave them out, and I'm playing with removing them for the audio, which is, I've got a tool that does that. But it's, like you say, it's not natural. And if you're in a normal conversation, there are gaps. And even someone listening to the podcast conversation, they need space to process as well. Yeah. So there you go. I'm the work in progress. I'm still working on myself there.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, we're not dead yet, so we're not done yet.
It's
my philosophy and outlook on life. I'm not dead yet. I'm not done yet. And I get to enjoy my experience. I am the historical overachiever. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to just be on form. I think getting old is a gift. I think that there's grace in aging, in that we start questioning all of these things and just how much value that they really add to our lives. Not making anything wrong, not wanting to regret anything. However, if there's anything that I appreciate more now, it is the immersion into the moments and the marinating in the conversation. You can't do that when you're just rushing through a conversation, because then what's happening is this. I think maybe this is where the shitty listening skills are enhanced, because people are so busy formulating a response in their head, they don't listen to the totality of the other person, then let it drop in, then get to the feeling, and then finding the words to express where they're at in the conversation from that point forward. Plus, it's my podcast, my rules. So who gives a shit?
That's right. Exactly. It's so true. You know what you just said? You said, about, you were saying about they're too busy. Hang on. Can't remember exact words you used.
Reply.
But yes. And it's when we pause and we allow ourselves to marinate and then immerse ourselves in the moment. And then you're talking about the podcast. I'm like, that's the formula for life. That, to me, that's where I'm looking around going, well, normally I'm at the desk at this time and I'm go, all day. I've got this on. I've got this, these little breaks over here for my kids because I homeschool my boys. And then there's sport runs and there's all these things, I don't normally stop. And I've not been very good in the past at teaching myself the value of pausing, because to me there was no value in pausing, because then I wouldn't get something done. And it's only been the last 3-4 years that slowly it's becoming more and more real and part of my being, that it's like, well, I can't be if I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I do, the less I be. And I'm not here just to do. I'm here to be, because guess what? Through being me, I actually end up doing more and doing it better. That's been one of my biggest lessons.
Playing devil's advocate, is it that we are doing more, or is it that we are creating more and creating better? By being more, we are creating more and creating better.
Yes. I mean, I use the word do, but it could be absolutely create. And I am a creator. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm challenging that for myself, because I used to be the human doing, not the human being. And I was very proud of it. It was a proud label that I had. I could outwork anybody. I could outplay anybody. I could out everything anybody. No pain, no gain. The whole really motivational masculine modality that we as women have been conditioned to eat, sleep, poop, orgasm to, let's orgasm more, ladies. Let's quickly get them out, because then we can get up and get going. The kids need to be fetched. And I could orgasm on demand at one stage. I was so good at it. Like,
wow. That's impressive.
Less than a minute, baby. Like less than a minute. Let's get an orgasm out so that I can get to the next thing, right? It's crazy. I used to schedule in times to go to the bathroom and pee. And if it wasn't scheduled in, I wouldn't go to the bathroom the entire day, because my calendar was blocked out from 4 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. Every single hour. And we wonder why we get to a certain age and go, that's crazy.
Yeah. What did that really serve? What did that really mean? How did that help serve life, myself, my family?
Did I really get to the point that I believed I would get to, where I would finally be happy, finally be proud of the woman I am, that I would finally feel special, that I would finally feel enough?
Yeah.
I am enough. And my resounding answer was no. No matter how successful I was, no matter how much I accomplished, no matter how much money I made, money I lost, men I loved, men I stopped loving, kids I had, none of that ever got me to a space of, oh, wow, Al, you're pretty fabulous. You're enough. Nothing to prove, nobody to impress. Work in progress.
Yeah. Are you there yet?
For the most parts. For the most parts. And it's taken incredible discipline and friendship with other women to get me there.
Interesting.
I needed to start learning how to be a friend, and then receiving friendship and honest feedback from my peers being my friends.
Okay.
And I feel like maybe that is missing for a lot of high achieving women, because before that I was the lone wolf.
Yeah.
I was the lone wolf. Could get there faster on my own. I had some really unpleasant experiences with other high achieving women on the competitive field of hogwash. And it's only been in the last year or so that I started connecting with women. And I said I didn't want any more here today, gone tomorrow relationships. I was tired of, we were talking about it earlier today in the soiree. I think that the whole people are in our lives for a season or a reason philosophy is spiritual bypass for us not actually wanting to put in the effort that it takes to create long lasting relationships, partnerships with people.
Yeah.
And it's a way of making us feel okay about the fact that people are coming through you like a train station majority of the time. I'm choosing to cultivate different relationships now, different partnerships. I want the long-term thing. I want the long game. And it's taken some deep inner work in myself to trust myself and then to start connecting with other women and to trust them.
I'm very happy to hear that because I feel that I'm on a similar journey, and it's not one that is easy, certainly to begin with, because it's not naturally part of our conditioning, I think, and especially, you know, we're women in a man's world, especially in business and work, and that's how I came up through the ranks in the corporate world. And, you know, that was my frame of doing business, you know, wearing the pants, being the alpha chick, you know, being in control. And unfortunately, I didn't have many positive female role models in the corporate world. They were either jealous, they either tried to cut me down, or they backstabbed me, or they were false. So that's not a very good way to, or not a very good past, you know, imprint of women in business, so to speak. So it's not come naturally to me because of that. Men have no problem with, and I've always served men far more readily, easily, and you're nodding and laughing, so you get this completely.
Yeah, I've always said it, my preference is to work with men. Life keeps bringing me back to women, and then I would go, no, men are so much easier and they're so much more supportive. Men have always supported me in business. Men have always, like, you groomed me, mentored me, opened doors for me literally and figuratively. And then life goes, nope.
Yeah.
This is, and I feel like it's because this is what is needed. It's what's needed in business, and I think it's needed. And when I say in business, I'm going to include for those of us who left corporate and chose the entrepreneurial path, because I don't think it's much better yet in the entrepreneurial space. There's still a lot of competition amongst women. There's still a lot of nastiness in the female entrepreneur space. There's very little trust in the female entrepreneur space. And that needs to start changing in order for us to really evolve. And it's in that evolution of self that I believe that we then get to start evolving the relationship with women. Women as myself, I had to recognize that I am a woman. I'm not a man wearing high heels. And then ready to start connecting to other women. So it's been an interesting time. Now, let's get to the question of all questions, which is where we normally start. However, I didn't think that we would start in the normal place. What does it mean to you to be an unapologetic woman?
When I first heard that, I think when I came across, I think it was at the bottom of your email or the website, I went, yeah, that's the way that we need to move forward. That's exactly what women need to be. Because men are. Right? So for me, what it means to be the unapologetic woman is to be fearless about one's journey, self, femininity, beliefs. And fearless is a big word because I've had fear throughout my whole working career. fear of failure, fear of, exposure, fear of, fill in the blank. And I think a lot of and I see others' decisions and actions are formed because we live in fear.
Mm-hmm.
We wear masks, we carry personas, we make decisions that will please others, what we think others expect of us. We make decisions based on those perceptions. So unapologetic means I'm not sorry for who I am. I'm not pardoning myself. Doesn't mean that we're rude, doesn't mean that we're bitchy or out of line, but it's creating a healthy boundary. And it's, to me, it's the ultimate form of self-respect. Loving oneself, to be completely yourself and accepting yourself and not making excuses or apologies about that.
That is so powerful. I'm going to read something that I actually wrote earlier today because it's so funny. Because I was going in, the unapologetic woman is in fact an archetype, and it's the archetype that I am getting more and more clear on for myself, because I believe this is the archetype of women that will serve us greatly moving forward. So what I wrote was, the unapologetic woman is the woman who leads from within. She's the woman who knows who she is, how she gets to be treated, and what she truly desires and values. She's the woman who takes full responsibility for her personal well-being and happiness. She is the woman who declares her I am. She is the woman who is resourceful. She is the woman with healthy boundaries. She is the woman who takes what matters to her and turns it into physical matter. She is the woman who co-creates with the magic of the universe, who knows that she is partnering with life to live her best life.
Mm. Beautiful. Mm.
Which
Really
is exactly
beautiful.
what you were saying.
Mm. I think if every woman was born with a hug from the universe, from Mother Earth, and that hug and embrace was, you're a mother, I am your mother, you are wanted, you are enough, go forth and be you. Could you imagine what kind of life that little girl would have growing up, knowing that she was so loved and wanted and embraced for who she is? I'd love to see a future with that sense of compassion and love starting at birth, having that internal knowing of, yes, I am more than enough because I am a daughter of, the universe longing for life itself.
And how wonderful that we get to live that as our legacies, because we didn't receive that when we were little. But through everything that I have lived, I have come to the understanding of my desire to live in a world where we aren't conditioned in fear consciousness, where we aren't conditioned to believe that we are born of sin and in sin, and that we have to prove our worth, that we have to prostitute ourselves, our value, our voices, our desires for the sake of belonging to a group who promises us safety and who always abandons us, who always turns on us. It's more unsafe for us within the tribe in modern day society than what it is in what I call the wilderness, which is why I believe so many of us have become lone wolves. We were ejected out of the tribe because we are outspoken, because we are different, because we are constantly working on ourselves and going, how do I be the better version of me? And in that, we get to create that legacy first energetically and then in spaces like this.
Mm, mm,
And even though I do believe Mother Earth hugged us all and said, "You are my daughter, you are my creation, and you are the creator of what's coming next." But where we stopped doing that is in the woman to woman relationship, from
mm,
mother to daughter. And this comes from generations of women not feeling enough and being told that they're not enough, and just handing it over, not 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 maliciously, just unconsciously, right? And maybe it's time for women of our maturity to first start doing it for ourselves and then with each other. And that will then start trickling down to the younger women, who I think desperately needs to be told that they are enough. And they don't need all the social applause and validation and attention
mm.
that so many of them are seeking at this time.
Absolutely. I just want to share something with you, which is so relevant to this topic. Well, it's part of my journey. I'm always on this healing. I'm always healing, because I believe we all need healing in different ways, forms, however you want to see that word. There's lots of different types of healing. I had a very traumatic childhood and have spent the majority of my adulthood healing. And I feel really good within myself. And for quite a number of years, I've been able to talk about my past without tears, without a lot of emotion, which is great. I don't have a lot of, what I think is the trauma still in me. And yet I was going along quite happily, and I hit some roadblocks, and I was working with a mindset coach. And he did some family constellation work. Well, he suggested it, and I thought, oh, here we go again. Yeah, I've done all this before, right? Done all this before. Okay, fine. Whatever floats your boat, I'll go along with it, keep him happy. So we go down this path, and what comes out but more stuff. And it really surprised me, because I thought I'd healed it. I thought I'd gone back there. And it was an imprint of being rejected in my mother's womb. My mother didn't want me when she was pregnant with me. When I was born, I was the second child. For whatever reason, she didn't want me around. Like it was an annoyance. I was an inconvenience. So I had that emotional imprint from within the womb that I wasn't wanted. And what this coach was able to show me was how that had stayed with me throughout my whole life and affected every decision I had made. From, work, relationships, friendships, career decisions, where I lived, just things in the business or in the workplace. Anything that would protect me from feeling that way or allow me to avoid feeling that. Does that make sense? So I completely protected myself from that, and it also informed the way that I assumed other people were towards me. And when he was able to draw this connector line between all these events throughout my life to now, I just almost fell on the floor, because I hadn't seen it like that before. And did some work to go back and heal. Now, I have a good relationship with my mother today. I've done a lot of this work, and yes, it's been transformational in regards to my relationship with her. But the reason I'm sharing this is that I know that I'm not the only one who has been abandoned as a child, in the womb, and the emotional trauma and impact of that. So healing is really important. And I think what you were saying about being the lone wolf, well, I had to be the lone wolf because I couldn't rely on the people in my family, because they didn't, in here, in my heart space, they didn't want me. So I couldn't rely on anyone because I'd be hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to challenge that narrative a little bit, and here's why. I think 99% of us were not wanted at pregnancy. And I think we need to have a lot of compassion for women in this conversation, because even today, 99% of women possibly find out that they're pregnant and it was not a planned pregnancy or not a wanted pregnancy. And I don't want women to go into guilt of, oh my God, now I have screwed up my child for the rest of their lives, because when I was pregnant, it was like, oh, I want to be pregnant. What is with this? Like, I'm always very mindful of not, of allowing people to understand that, quite frankly, majority of us were not planned pregnancies. Majority of us, we get to have a lot of compassion for the women and for our mothers, because they didn't know what they didn't know. And a lot of them weren't feeling safe. I know that my mom, when she was pregnant, was not feeling safe. She had my baby brother, who was not even, I think he was 3 months when she fell pregnant with me. Can you imagine still having a 3-month-old baby and then finding out that you're pregnant again in a marriage that you weren't safe in, that wasn't very loving, that there was no support in? So I have a lot of compassion for women in the whole pregnancy thing. And yes, we get to heal that. But I also think that it happened specifically in our generation because the consciousness wound of abandonment is what needs to be healed.
Yes.
The collective consciousness wound of abandonment. Because when we start thinking about it, if we look at the archetypes, that is where the archetype of the prostitute is formed, right? And it's the archetype of I will do and say anything so that you will like me, so that you will stay with me, so that you will protect me, and all of that. And I believe everything in life happens for us. And so I look at it and go, yeah, that needed to happen for our generation of women specifically, so that we could go, no, like this needs to be healed. And this gets to heal now. I don't think that we have to relive the trauma in order for us to heal it. But for any woman who's maybe listening to this and kind of going, oh, yeah, that could possibly be me. It could be as simple as making a decision right now and say, I choose not to be that woman anymore. I choose to heal that for myself, and I choose to heal it for my mom, because whatever she was going through, and I get to choose to heal it for my kids, because maybe like me, you've already had your kids. And I remember when I first found out I was pregnant, I was horrified, never planned on having kids. Went on antibiotics. Doctor never told me, oh, by the way, this will cancel out the pill. Don't have sex. Thought I was on the pill, thought I was safe. And I bawled my eyes out, sitting in the bathroom, the door locked. I wouldn't even see my then boyfriend, who became my husband at the time. I was just bawling my eyes and going, this cannot be happening. And had a dreadful pregnancy, was sick all the time. My second baby was planned, but not my first one. But I get to heal that for them as well.
Yeah.
But it's so powerful how we as women have been influenced generation after generation after generation. And I think if we had to start tracing this back, man, we would probably go back to the witch days, if not before that, of not wanting, especially a daughter, and the daughter being the competition for the attention of the father, and therefore it's not safe for us anymore. Damn, we've got some work to do as women, right?
Yeah.
And I also think that maybe it's time for us to go, and this gets to be done now. Like, this gets to be sorted out now within ourselves. Like we get to draw a line in the sand and go, no, no, I'm not available for fear of abandonment. I'm not available for fear of judgment. I'm not available for selling my desires and my soul for the price of a pat on the head. And I don't think it has to be hard. I think we are way more powerful than what we give ourselves credit for. And even what the personal development industry, which I am part of, gives most people credit for. We are the creators and the created, the creation.
The creation. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for sharing that, because that's powerful. That's powerful. The origin of fear of abandonment.
Yeah, it is. And I love what you just said then. It you know, the healing is a choice. Now, my journey was I needed to go through that healing piece. And it healed. And I see the way that it's trickled into my mother, my daughter. And I know, you know, those that have done this kind of work before, you understand that it heals your bloodline. And I felt that shift. So I knew that I needed to do it, not just for me. So it's interesting that that's part of being part of my journey, but it was something that you brought up today. And it's like, yeah, wow, love the connections. And I love how we get to share this. And I know that a lot of women feel the same way. I know. And what you just said is, yes, it's a choice, and it's about being consciously aware of where you have prostituted yourself, sacrificed yourself, or disrespected yourself, not loved yourself enough because of that wound, because of that back then. But it's easy to heal. And you're right. I think our consciousness needed this to be healed, and we are the generation that are coming up with these imprints, these traumas, in order to heal. Yeah.
And then what a wonderful time to be alive. And what a big freaking responsibility on women. And I'm going to put this out there, to start showing up, to start actually healing these consciousness wounds, to do the work, to love self. That's the start of everything. Self-love is the start of everything, because without self-love, without hooking into the frequency of love, we cannot love others, and we cannot receive love. End of story. It's a frequency that we get to hook into. And I do feel like we have a responsibility, and it's not easy, right? It's not easy in terms of, we feel really intimidated by a lot of the technology. I know for a long time, I felt really intimidated by the boss girl generation, because look at them, have all their shit together, they're showing up, they're building empires, they're all over social media. And then one day I was like, well, hold on, Al. When you were in your 20s, you were the hot shits too. It was just done on a different scale, because we didn't have social media. But we were rocking it. We were extraordinarily confident. We were, we were on top of the world. And then life happened. And we got taken down a peg, 2, 3, or 4 in the process, because our passion had to be tempered with life experience for us to become wise.
Yeah.
And now wise women have a responsibility to start stepping up, speaking up, and leading from within for whatever generations are following. Because all of those ladies, they're still going to go through their learning curve, their initiation into wisdom. Shall we put it that way? I think maybe that is our new initiation, is life. And it could be so easy for us to go, we've done our part, we don't need to do this, nobody's interested in us, we don't look as good and pretty and all of. But that's negating our responsibility and the power that we have, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. I think it is. From everything that we've just been talking about, it's about coming in from the wilderness, coming into the collective, showing up, communing, sharing. And that means sharing our wisdom. And that means being an example to our daughters, to the girls who are younger, for them to see that, oh, that's a safe path. That's how I can be. That's a new paradigm, a new way of being. We've got to live it. We can't just, I think, embody it on our own and go, yep, like you said, I'm done. I'll just, go and do my thing here quietly in the corner. Well, maybe some will do that because they don't feel called to step up. But there are people that you're surrounding yourself with. And I feel constantly I get a tap on my shoulder even when I don't want to know that my shoulder's being tapped, and the universe says, oh, hello. I wouldn't have done a podcast by myself. I did it because there was a friend that wanted to do it at the time, and it ended up being my podcast. And I laugh now. I have a chuckle about that, and that it obviously was meant to be, and I needed to have that space. I needed to be on that platform. And yes, whilst I'm not sitting there talking about healing, I'm still an example, and I know I need to show up even and continue evolving as I show up. I think you're right, it is our responsibility. And to do it in a way that comes from self-love and being willing to express that in a new way, not the old way.
Yes. It's time for a new narrative.
Yeah.
It's time for a new language to be brought into consciousness. And it's not just even about our daughters. Like, we're blessed with boys.
That's right.
We have been blessed to raise the men that will support the unapologetic woman of the future. And even in that lies a huge responsibility, because I had to raise my boys different from the norm. I had to raise the boys that could stand beside an unapologetic woman when, respectfully, their father couldn't. And I feel like that is where we do need to start understanding that, yes, there are some unapologetic men in the world, but they're also few and far between. For the most part, our men are struggling.
I agree.
But we can't stay weak so that we can stand beside the weak men. We have to be strong so that we can stand beside the strong men who will lead the weak men, as we choose to be strong women and lead other women. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to play a role in all of this.
Exactly. How do you see that looking, Elle, for women? Let's go back to women and what we've been talking about. Women need to show up and be the change, lead through example, lead through their voice. How does that look?
It looks more compassionate. It looks slower. It looks more beautiful, because beauty takes time. It takes time to sit in the creation, in the creative process, to live as an artist, to share the artistry unattached to what's being received. It comes from a space of women living in flow with themselves again, and therefore creating differently from our male counterparts. It's restoring the divine feminine within us and balancing it with the divine masculine, which we need at times in order for us to live in this world. But I do believe that it looks like way more trust between women, more collaboration between women, more co-creative and powerful conversations between women, and not like-minded women. I'm not for the like-minded conversation, like-hearted women, because we are squelching diversity rather than appreciating diversity and building on that. Women at the moment are so at war with themselves that we cannot experience peace in the world. And if we truly desire a peaceful world, I believe that we as women need to find peace with ourselves.
Yeah, I completely agree.
When we come from this space, we no longer feel we need to attack. There's a lot of attacking going on. Attacking of women, of other women, attacking of women, of men, attacking of women, of systems, with the false belief that it will change it, instead of understanding the change that they're experiencing is for but a short period of time, because while they're exerting pressure on something and it looks like it's becoming smaller, what's happening is it's compressing, and in that it's becoming stronger until it reaches a certain point, and then it grows even bigger than before. I don't believe that's the answer. I believe that we as women need to change our focus and stop talking about and focusing on what we want to change, and do what we as women do, start focusing on what we want to create. Completely different focus, completely different conversation, completely different outcome. That's the way that I see us as evolved women creating the world.
Beautiful.
Won't happen in my lifetime. But it's the seeds that I'm planting. Right?
Exactly.
It's the seeds that I'm planting, and I'm good with that. Whenever people say to me, oh, but you won't experience it in your lifetime, I go, no, I am creating the world I want to come back to, because I do believe I get to come back again if I so choose. So I'm not working on the world that is. I am working on creating the world that I want to come back to. How do you see it?
Well, yes, I've always thought that, it would be a choice about coming back. I agree that the change won't happen overnight. Typically, these kind of changes take probably around 2 generations, right? And maybe by the 3rd generation. So what's that? Not even my grandkids, but maybe their children, looking at that. At that point, if we start now, then their life, I look at it, what's their life going to be? And that's the world that we're creating in terms of this consciousness shift, this shift in paradigm. Those shifts take time. Yeah. And I love that the way that you've been so clear and giving and heartfelt in your role in this, planting the seeds for the world that you want to come back to. Love that. And that's it. That's exactly what it is. And it's almost a selfless kind of task. We're not looking for instant an ROI on our investment here. This is not a what can I get built in the next 2 weeks? No. And it comes from a deeper part of us, part of our knowing. acceptance of who we are, you know, that the quiet part of ourselves, the soul that speaks to us when everything else is quiet. What's that part of you saying to yourself about what you're here to do or what you need to do? And I think in those quiet moments, that voice is the one that's whispering to you what you can do or what you need to be doing. And that should align with, I guess, an overall purpose. And it's easy to ignore that voice if you stay too busy, if you allow the constant chatter, the social media influx, you know, and if you keep deleting the word breaks. So getting back to where we started from, we need to keep the spaces to allow processing, to allow the moments of magic to drop in, to allow the knowing to occur. Because if we fill all those gaps with noise, we actually lose who we are. We forget who we are. So many things don't occur. We can't actually be who we're here to be.
And I'll speak for myself, it was fear-based. I didn't want the pause because I knew that I would have to face myself in those moments. So much easier to fill it with the things that other people applaud, than to have to face the woman in the mirror.
Yeah. Woman in the mirror is the best one. She's the one that you're here to be. Yeah. So for me, I want to show up for the woman in the mirror. And the future version of myself, and for the future version of my generations, and not just my bloodlines, but the people around me.
We're all connected.
We're all connected.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
I wish people would really get this. Like, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We can stop judging people and understand that even in the pain that some actions create, a new desire is born. We're all we're all co-creating a better consciousness. We're all creating a better future world. But contrast is required for a lot of the desire to be born within us. We're all in this together. Like, really. Good people do bad shit.
Yeah.
And what we say, bad people, I've seen bad people do good shit. What do you take an unapologetic stance for in the world?
Oh, unapologetic stance. Gosh, for so many things, but let's just the things that you know in your being. And I'm thinking, like, as a piece of advice, is just stand for what you know is at your core. And don't ever apologize for that. For me, and here's my example. My house here is well, we have pets, we don't eat them. So I have a you know, animal friendly, a loving household. And when we have guests stay, I let them know, you know, we don't serve meat or animal food or products. And one guest flew in, and he was staying for the night. It was a work colleague, and he went to the shops. He says, "Oh, I'll buy for myself," and he goes off to start to the meat department. He mustn't have realized or remembered what I'd said, and I kindly let him know. And I said, "Look, if you want, we can go out for dinner instead." No, he says, "That's fine." Anyway, so I have an unapologetic stance. I had a friend once thought that he could bring KFC and put it in the fridge. I said, "No, you'll have to eat it out there, because my house, it's my rules, right? Everyone's got their thing. Mine is, I have my house as a it's just a vibrational thing. I want a clean living space. It's the values that I set and I create. So unapologetically stand for what you believe in and what you feel is really part of who you are, and don't compromise on that.
Respect yourself enough to respect your values. And what you'll find then is that you'll respect other people to respect their values in their spaces as well. And this is
Totally.
why, and I'll start wrapping this up because this conversation could go on the whole day. But I was chatting to my friends this morning and go, I take an unapologetic stance for exclusivity. Because at the end of the day, I believe in diversity, and diversity begets exclusivity of space.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can start respecting that instead of this inclusive culture that everybody wants to jam down our throats at the moment, I will respect your space and you respect my space. And we get to respect that we are different.
Absolutely.
And the world is freaking big enough for both of us. So I will close off there.
I love that, Elle. I'll second that one. Yes. Thank you.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much. Oh my God. All over the show. I will put all your contact details down below in the description. Here's my question to you though. Who do you want to connect with you?
Who do I want to connect with me?
Who do you want to click the link on connecting with you?
Oh,
Particularly. No, be specific. Let's do that.
Specific. Be specific.
Who are the people that you want to have fabulous conversations with?
People who are on a similar journey, or maybe those who are on the journey and have resonated with part of this conversation and can see where I'm at in my journey, and maybe I'm a little bit further along, and maybe they need a little bit of inspiration or some, a handhold or just some kind words, or it could be someone who gets it.
Love that.
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's been so much fun.
This has been fun. I love playing with you. We'll do this again.
Absolutely.
To our listeners, thank you for spending the last hour with us with multiple pauses. I hope that you have used those pauses to do introspection, that you've used the pauses to just feel into our conversation. And here's the thing, you don't have to agree with anything that we have said. My intention is to create a platform for you to start listening to the voice within yourself and to trust that voice, to trust that intuition and go, yeah, that really resonates. Or no, I don't agree with that. Respectfully, agree to disagree. Or, there's a trigger in that. And that's something that I want to do deeper introspection about. There's something in that for me. Like lean into the triggers. But it's never about us all singing off the same page. Dear God, can we please stop that? Because it's boring.
It's so boring.
It's so boring.
Yes, it really is. Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but I am with you and we are different. Let's accept it and let's enjoy and embrace the color and the diversity that we are.
Oh, hell to the yes.
Yeah.
So until next week, ladies, never forget, we get to live our legacies unleashed, unlimited, and bloody unapologetic. Have an amazing day further. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at The Unapologetic Woman and on LinkedIn at L-Naj. And if you're interested in experiencing the Unapologetic Woman Friendwork Soiree, book in for our next open meeting at unapologetic-women.as.me/unapologetic. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.